I'm Robert Griffin, the Executive Minister here at the Sunshine Cathedral in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I want to thank you for joining us for worship via the internet today. And if you are ever in the Fort Lauderdale area, let me personally invite you to stop by and worship with us on Sunday mornings at 9 and 10:30 a.m. We also invite you to join us on our Facebook group or follow us on Twitter. But for this moment, let's go inside and see what exciting worship opportunity lay in store for us.
Last night we had a program here, and it was so good. We had Mandy Carter here. Now, Mandy Carter is a social justice activist, renowned for her social justice work, her advocacy for women's rights, her advocacy for against poverty, for eliminating poverty, her advocacy for LGBT rights, her advocacy for the civil rights movement. She has been involved for almost 5 decades. In spiritually motivated social activism. She is amazing. She was at Selma and then at Selma. And she has done it all. She has served on every committee. She has worked on voting rights. She has worked for peace. She has done it all. She has embodied the gospel. And she shared her story last night and gave some advice and answered questions, and it was so wonderful. And she's driving back to North Carolina. It's like a 17-hour drive, and she delayed her getting on the road so she could visit with us one more time this morning. She was at the 9 o'clock service. She's going to be here for the next 2 or 3 minutes of this service. And so before we wish her well on her travels, would you please welcome Mandy Carter? So why don't you give us a little introduction, and then I got a question for you.
Well, a couple of things. I have to say I bring greetings from my home state, Albany, New York. Any New Yorkers out there? And my second home, Durrell, North Carolina. Any North Carolinians out there?
You know what a sack is.
I have to say, when I was born in Albany, we used the term soda. And someone used the term pop. I said, no, that must be a Midwest kind of thing.
Right.
Anyway, I just want to say, we were on the bridge in Selma last year. It was like 80,000 people. And we're standing there looking at President Obama and John Lewis in tears as he introduces our first African-American president. And lo and behold, I'm looking around, and who do I spot? Robert. 80,000, where's Robert?
Where's Robert?
80,000 people, what's the likelihood? There you are. So I was on my Facebook page the other day and pops up a little Facebook message. So Mandy, what you doing around March 11th or 12th? Nothing. Come on down to Fort Lauderdale. We can have this conversation from Selma to Montgomery to whatever. I'm here. Drove 14 hours, gonna get in my car and drive 14 back. It's a gift, it's a pleasure, and I want to thank each and every one of you for welcoming me and making me feel like at home. So that said, do you have that question?
I do have that
Okay.
question. Last night, we talked about so many things, but you talked about going from me to we. How sometimes we think when we make an advance in social cause, we think, oh, thank God, I'm finally there, and we forget sometimes that other people aren't there. And even if we think we're there might be people trying to take our there-ness away, and then there's people who aren't there yet. And so you were talking about the, that Jesus thing about not just me, but we. Would you say some more about that for us today?
Yeah, and I remember when I just said this earlier for the 9 a.m. service, I just realized something. We tend to operate in silos. And I remember as an out black lesbian social justice activist, I went to a NOW meeting, and we did our introductions, and someone said, well, introduce yourself. And I said, my name is Mandy Carter. I'm a black lesbian feminist. After the women came over and said, was it really necessary for you to put that lesbian in there? I said, well, yeah, that's kind of who I am. Then I go to an all African American meeting, and I do the same thing, and the sister said, well, was it really necessary to say you're a lesbian in there? Well, yeah, that's who I am. I can't take off my hat one place and another. Got to be able to bring all of who I am to the same place. Take me or leave me, but I cannot divide up myself that way. So that said, and you're going to repeat this with me, one of the things I've been struck by is the incredible progress of our lesbian, bisexual, transgender community and movement in terms of legal rights. The Supreme Court has given us such amazing rights. It didn't come overnight. Thank you, Edie Windsor, for challenging these rules that we get these incredible decisions. Marriage equality, don't ask, don't tell. We just got this amazing ruling in Alabama where there was a lesbian woman who wanted to keep her children. They ruled in that direction. But I was in tears because that same Supreme Court all but gutted the Voting Rights Act of 1965. I'm in tears about that. Yeah. And I want to know what message they're sending. They give us bad rulings on affirmative action. They've given us bad rulings on issues of color. So as we look ahead and how each one of us has these gifts of what we do with our lives every single day, not only just personally, but legally, socially, music makes a difference, culture. So what I said last night was, maybe if we take where we are right now and get up and look 5,000 feet in the air and look down and ask a simple question. What are the things or what is the thing or things that would put a lot of us in the same space at one time? And repeat after me. These are the 7 things we said. Clean air. Clean water.
Clean water.
No one should be hungry.
No one should be hungry.
No one should be homeless.
No one should be homeless.
Everyone should have access to health care.
Everyone should have access to health care.
Everyone should have access to an education.
Education.
And everyone should be gainfully employed.
Gainfully employed.
Because when you say that, whatever language you speak, wherever you live, and how you go about your business day to day, that is what brings us all into the same collective we. Not me, not my, collective we. And we're at a moment, I believe, right now. If anyone told us we'd be living long enough to see our first African American president when black folk are not allowed to vote, or women, and you see where we are now, let's not get into the us against them, don't get into silo, how do we move us all forward? So my hope is sky high in terms of how we move ourselves forward and collectively. And thank you so much, because I know it's not a question of if, it's just a question of when, and the when is when? Now.
Yes.
Good?
Thank you so much.
O spinner, weaver of our lives, your loom is love. May we who are gathered here be empowered by that love to weave new patterns of truth and justice into the web of life that is strong, beautiful, and everlasting. Amen.
Our first reading is from the wisdom of Viktor Frankl. Everything can be taken from one, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. In these human words, God's voice is heard.
Our second reading is from the wisdom of William James. The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his or her life by altering his or her attitudes. In these human words, God's voice is heard.
Our third reading is from the Gospel according to Luke. Imagine a woman who has 10 coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and scour the house, looking in every nook and cranny until she finds it? And when she finds it, you can be sure that she'll call her neighbors and her friends. Celebrate with me. I found my lost coin. Count on it. That's the kind of party God's angels throw every time one lost soul turns to God. In these human words, God's voice is heard.
Well, I don't know if I've ever mentioned it before, but I had a great Aunt Gladys growing up. It's my grandmother's sister, you see. And my great Aunt Gladys, she was married a long time to my great Uncle Arthur. And, after a long time, the magic had sort of faded. But when they were coming up on their 50th anniversary, my great Aunt Gladys decided, well, we've made it 50 years. We may as well try to reignite this spark. Clearly we're not going anywhere. Let's try to enjoy the rest of this ride. So she had a plan. One day, my great Uncle Arthur was out running errands, and she said, I'm going to surprise him. What I'm going to do is when he gets back, I'm going to greet him at the door in my birthday suit. She did water aerobics. It was all good. So, So she's ready. She knows when he's supposed to be back. She hears the footsteps approaching the door. She can't wait. She takes everything off, and she's waiting. She can't even wait to hear the sound of the key in the door. She just flings the door open and gives the surprise. Now, this is where it turns into a bad news, good news situation. The bad news is it wasn't my great Uncle Arthur. The good news is she was never once again bothered by a Jehovah's Witness. And if anyone skipped Kingdom Hall to come here today, I'm so sorry. Whatever. For some reason, that is the story that just leapt into my mind when I was reading the gospel this week. My great Aunt Gladys hoping to reignite this spark. My great Aunt Gladys not giving up on the possibility that romance could be rekindled. And that's sort of what we see in the story today, isn't it? The woman in the gospel story, in the parable, and a parable is a fictional story that is meant to communicate a profound truth. The same can be said for a myth or even a fable. But parables are something that Jesus employs quite a bit to make points, where he tells fictional stories to make true points. And in fact, a lot of the Bible is parabolic. Jesus lets you in on it. This is a parable, but a lot of things are actually parabolic in Scripture. And in this parable, there is a woman who loses a coin. And she's got a few, and she loses one, and she tears the house apart trying to find this coin. She cannot lose this coin. This isn't a dime that fell out of her pocket. What would make one coin so valuable? It wasn't that the 10 coins, that was the milk money, and now she can't get milk without that coin. No. Why was this coin so valuable? My grandmother had a ring that she used to wear that she loved very much, and it was a different stone, a different color stone, next to another one, next to another one. So it was like a little emerald chip, a little ruby chip, a little topaz chip, and so on. They were birthstones, and they represented her husband and her children and her grandchildren. This was her family wrapped around her finger, basically. It was a symbol of her love for her family. And this is what is probably meant to be conveyed in this story, that in antiquity, people would wear necklaces or head frontlets with coins and jewels on them, and they had sentimental value. Maybe someone gave this person this piece of ornate jewelry as a wedding gift, or as an anniversary present, or as an engagement gift. Maybe it represented her children or grandchildren, or maybe it was she received it on a special anniversary. It represented the wholeness, the completion of her family. It represented love. It represented something she valued deeply. And so it had to be whole. It had to be perfect. Nothing could be apart from it. This is part of a trilogy of stories where the prodigal son goes away, and and when he comes back, the family welcomes him with open arms. But not so much the brother, and I've got a brother like that. But the rest of the family welcomes him with open arms. Oh, we've missed you. We knew you'd come back, and we're going to celebrate now that you're here. You've always had a place at this table. You were off doing silly things, but we never gave up on you. This was always your home. And there's a story about a lamb that wanders off. And the shepherd leaves the rest of the flock to find that one, because every lamb has to be safe. Every lamb has to be cared for. Every lamb has to be fed. And so if one wanders off, we got to go get it. And in this trilogy of stories, here is another story. A coin rolls away, but it can't be lost. This piece of jewelry that it's part of has to be whole. It has to be complete. Not one single dangling coin is expendable. And so she tears the house apart until she finds it. And when she finds it, she throws a party. She invites all the neighbors in. And she actually has to wind up spending money to find this coin that's unspendable. She's not going to spend the coin, but she's making sandwiches and making tea for the guests. She has to throw a party because she's so happy that she has found it. There's some amazing things that this story, I think, is trying to communicate to us. One, the coin was always in the house. Just like the prodigal son, they never gave his room away. He always had a home. He forgot it, but it still existed for him. He never was denied access to what was innately his. Same thing about the lamb. The lamb wandered off, but could not be part of the flock. And this coin seems to be misplaced, but it's in the house. It's in the house. She finds it in the house. It was never really lost. It just didn't know, we just didn't know where to look for it maybe. But it was there. It was never lost. It couldn't be lost. And so it shows us that God's love is all inclusive and unconditional. God doesn't have one soul to waste. We can't be separate from the love of God. We can't be separate from the love that God is. As Emerson said, we are part and parcel of God. God's creation must be whole. No wonder that in the creation myth, it says God looks at God's creation and calls it very good. We are part of that creation. It must be whole. We can't not be part of it. We have to be united with our source. We have to be united with our best and highest selves. We have to be united with all that is good. It's who we are. And the story says that when someone remembers that, when someone who felt lost remembers that they can't be lost, they've always got a home, they've always got a room in their parents' house, that they've always been in the house, maybe under some dirty laundry, maybe under a chair, maybe under a vase, but in the house wherever that coin was found. You can't be lost. When anyone remembers who they are and what they are part of, the heavens rejoice. The heavens rejoice every time we remember we are God's miracle and not God's mistake. The other thing we see in this story is that we've seen God throughout the scriptures as a rock, as a castle, as a rainbow, as a mother eagle, as a father, as a warrior, as a breastfeeding mother. We see all kinds of images of the divine, and this is one of those feminine images where God is the mother figure who will not, whose love is so ferocious, is indomitable, is unrelenting. It will not let us go. So it shows us that we can expand how we understand the divine, and it shows us that the divine will never let us go. And there's one more thing that I think the story shows us, and it's how we can deal with challenges in our life. The woman, she loses her coin, and she immediately summons the power of hope. I don't know where it is, but I'm going to find it. And she starts tearing the house apart. She doesn't know where she's going to find it. She doesn't know when she's going to find it. But hope will not let her stop looking. And so the first response to the crisis is to summon the power of hope, and it's available. The next step is to not stop looking until you find a resolution to the situation. When it wasn't under the chair, she looked under the vase. When it wasn't under the vase, she looked under the dirty laundry. When it wasn't under the dirty laundry, she looked amongst the dishes. When it wasn't amongst the dishes, she looked under the pillow. When it wasn't under the pillow, she looked under the bed. She looked everywhere. If she couldn't find it in there, she was going to go out in the yard and then in the street. That she kept searching until she made some headway. So the power of hope is then the power that energizes us to keep looking for a solution. And then, when she finds some good news, when she finds it, when she lifts something and she sees a little glimmer and she's like, oh, that may be it, what does she do? She rejoices. The third thing we can do is always remember to express gratitude for every gift and blessing we discover as we are on our journey, as we are searching for the solution. Along the way, there are blessings, there are breakthroughs, there are hints of good to come, and we should acknowledge and celebrate all of those. And the fourth thing is she shares her good fortune. She finds an unspendable coin and then spends money on sandwiches and Kool-Aid and whatever to invite the friends and neighbors in to celebrate, because it's about we, not just me. I have experienced a breakthrough. I have to share my good with others. That is the formula that this God figure in this story, in this parable, she shows us how to deal with challenges in life. You summon the power of hope. You don't give up until you have some breakthrough. As you get breakthroughs or even hints of breakthroughs, you celebrate with gratitude. And once you have found your good fortune, you share it. We can do that. We can handle every such situation, every such challenge and difficulty that way, because we are made in God's image, and that is what God would do. In the story, that is what God has done. God will not give up on us. And so we need not give up on ourselves. That is our reason for hope, and this is the good news. Amen.
Thank you for joining us today here at the Sunshine Cathedral. If you're ever in the Fort Lauderdale area, we invite you to stop by and worship with us on Sunday mornings at 9 and 10:30 a.m. If you'd like to make a donation to the Sunshine Cathedral, or if you'd like to find out other resources that the Cathedral has to offer, please visit us at www.sunshinecathedral.org. Until the next time, we look forward to seeing you here at the Sunshine Cathedral.